Welcome. And thank you all for coming. My name is John Visti. I'm the program manager at the Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service, affectionately known as WIPS. And we're sponsoring this event tonight. We're very pleased to be working with a number of organizations in carrying out this event. It has been an incredible collaboration for me personally, between the Community Foundation, the Hunger Coalition, the Wausau Daily Herald, and Stock the Shelves campaign, the University of Wisconsin Stevens Point, and the University of Wisconsin Marathon County, and of course Wayne Kostroski and the Taste of the NFL. I'd like to give special thanks to our staff at WIPS for the work they did in organizing this event. It has been through the efforts of Connie Nikolai, Deb Mortensen, Luke Rudolph, Tim Yuan, Emily Schreiner, and Liz Schlick that we've been able to pull this all together. They've been incredible, and especially Luke and Tim got out there and got all these donations from local businesses. It was an incredible effort. Also special thanks to Elizabeth Martin, business professor at UWSP, who really launched this event, who really brought this to fruition. Ann Herta-Rapp, a sociology professor at UWMC, also got us, convinced us to benefit the food pantries. Jean Tien, the head of the Community Foundation of North Central Wisconsin, has been tremendously supportive of this whole event and suggested that we support the Stock the Shelves campaign. Joanne Janikowski of the United Way and Hunger Coalition provided us with information on hunger and poverty in central Wisconsin and has been an inspiration to me personally. Tom Rao of the Neighbor's Place, who helped us organize this event, and for his tremendous efforts in working with those in need. Tom is going to introduce Wayne in a minute. Mike Beck and Janet Theraldson of the Daily Herald have been so supportive of this event and in organizing the Stock the Shelves campaign. And I should mention Jackie Caratini of UW Extension, who put together some information on poverty in central Wisconsin. And of course, thanks to all the businesses who contributed. Their names are on the placard outside. The community has been incredible in their support, and we do not have a problem with the community spirit in Marathon County like some people have stated. And also I'd like to give special thanks to my friend David Stade and Megan Sweeney for contributing the Packer tickets. And of course, Wayne Kostroski for donating his time, his energy, and a pair of tickets to the Packer-Vikings game. The tickets, the raffle tickets, are going to be drawn after this event. We'll have a short reception after Wayne gives his talk, and you can still purchase some more raffle tickets if you want after his talk, and we'll be drawing the tickets 15 to 20 minutes after the end of the talk. And the same as raffle tickets for the items and for the Packer tickets. I just wanted to note that all of any donations you make to the Stock the Shelves campaign will be matched by the Greenheck Foundation, and we're very much appreciative of this. They'll match up to $15,000 for any funds that we contribute. Again, thank you for coming, and I'd like to have Tom Rao come up and introduce Wayne. Thank you.
Well, the first thing that I'd like to do is thank the Wisconsin Institute for Public Policy and Service for hosting what I've come to be very used to, another very timely event. I think hunger and poverty here in Marathon County, it couldn't be a better time to talk about it. And then I had prepared some remarks, and naturally, being me, I just have to add a few things to them in introducing our speaker tonight. I had a wonderful opportunity, and it was just a very nice thing to have him stop by the neighbor's place this afternoon. And as we walked around, and I had an opportunity to explain all of the things that we do at the neighbor's place and show him our building, which is under construction and not the most beautiful facility right now in the world, I was struck by how kind and how attentive a man he is. He was interested in everything, and all of the staff people, all of the people that we ran into as we went through the facility. And it was very clear to see that we're very fortunate to have a gentleman like this talking to us tonight, because his heart is definitely in this issue that he brings to us tonight. And so now I'll switch back to what I really intended to say in introducing him tonight. I just wanted to say that a life, no matter where it is, but especially it should be meaningful to us here in Marathon County, a life in or at the edge of poverty is not a life that anyone wants or deserves to have. Many of us will never experience what so many in our community really have to live with every day. And every year, it seems like, in spite of the fact that we hope this will be the year where it levels off, what we're seeing is an increasing number of people here in our community that are living in poverty. At my organization, the Neighbor's Place, we've so far this year, from January to September, seen over 27,303 pantry visits. 27,303 visits to our pantry. That compares to 17,742 pantry visits for the same time in 2012. I did the math for you. That's a 35% increase from 2012 to 2013. Clearly, anyone looking at that figure understands that it is long past time for all of us to solve this growing problem. So tonight, we're fortunate to have with us a gentleman who believed that it was long past time to deal with hunger, and he found out about that and decided it was long past time over 20 years ago. In 1992, as you've seen if you've been watching the film, he founded Taste of the NFL and its signature event, Party for a Purpose. And each year since 1992, Party with a Purpose has been held on the eve of the Super Bowl. To date, this event has generated over $14 million for hunger programs throughout the United States. Our speaker tonight is a well-known restaurateur throughout the Minneapolis and St. Paul region, a respected hunger relief advocate at the national level, a passionate promoter of service to and giving back to your community, and a 2010 James Beard Humanitarian of the Year. And as I said, he is a very, very dedicated and nice gentleman. And so it is my distinct honor tonight to have the opportunity to introduce again to you Wayne Kostroski, a man who truly lives what he believes.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Oh, that's not going to work. Now that you guys all talked amongst yourselves, didn't you? Yeah, that's pretty funny. Good night, everybody. Thank you very much, and thanks, Tom. It was really an honor to go through Neighborhood Place today. It's pretty amazing. And then also to see a number of you that I've already met. If it wasn't for bandmates, dinner companions, university connections in Stevens Point, and our parents of our greatest intern ever in Minneapolis right now, working on it this year, my long-lost cousins that I haven't seen in 40 years that live in the area. If it wasn't for all of you, you know, there'd be no one else to talk to, so I appreciate it. Thanks for coming out. I'm glad that I've got some friends and work it out. You know, of course, when you put a talk together or something, you always have notes and you have kind of where you're going to go. Given that I'm going to adjust on the fly tonight, it'll be better if I don't go by something prepared, because it's friends and family night here, and I appreciate that. Usually, about this time, besides thanking you for coming, I try to give you a sense of why I'm here, to try to give you some ideas and perhaps some new direction and something to get you jump-started to get involved in your community. Everybody here that I see and that I've talked to, you're already doing that. So instead, I want to start by saying thank you very much for what you do. You don't need any convincing. You don't need any inspirational speeches. You don't need anything. You're already doing it. You know, with the United Way and with the University Ethics Program in Stevens Point and with Neighborhood Place. And I get to see food banks and hunger organizations across the country, and I'm blessed to do that. And of course, you think in your head as you're walking through, there's some level of comparison, and you know, you look for similarities and you look for efficiencies, and particularly the ones that we fund. We fund primarily food banks in each of the NFL cities through the Feeding America system. And so you look at it, and you want to make sure the money that you're raising ends up being used in the right way. And truly, hats off, Tom. The organization here in town is remarkable. What you've done, rainy roof or not, you still make sure that people are fed. And you had some incredibly wonderful words about the United Way and Joanne. And we only talked a little bit tonight, and I can understand why. And so, you know, really this whole thing we're involved with called life is finding ways to collaborate, finding ways to find the center when we disagree, finding ways to look to others when we can. That was a great lesson that my mom taught me, is that, you know, help when you can, and when you can't, don't feel bad that you didn't. Wait for the next opportunity. I mean, we can't all give up what we're doing and spend all the time down at Tom's place. Well, he'd welcome us. It'd be fine, right? But we've got lives, we've got families, we've got everything going on that we've got to take care of. But you all have found a way to carve out some piece of time in a timely basis to help others. There's nothing better, and you know that. And so I wish, you know, the rest of the seats were filled with people that I had to convince them to listen to you about what you're already doing, because then a lot of things would be in much better shape. But I do still want to share with you a couple ideas that I think have served me well, and the growth of not only Taste of the NFL, but the growth of, you know, hunger efforts around the country. There was an expression I came across one of these days. I'll go on that thing called the intranet. Or wait, that's not right. I'll go and I'll look up where the origin of this phrase came from, but many years ago I came across, and that was to be an individual who brings out the best in those around you. And for some reason that really resonated with me. And whether I'm talking to students or commencements or fifth graders or business colleges or business organizations, chambers of commerce, it just fits all the way across the board, is that if you be an individual who brings out the best in those around you, you will have a better chance for success and happiness, in my opinion. And there's a tail end of that expression that I'll bring in later on, but it really kind of brings that all together. So that's one thought I want to put to you. The other one is that, particularly with the students, wherever I go, I ask the students, because they're brighter than me, they're sharper, they're more awake than me, etc. I say, okay, well, you're at the beginning of the greatest time in your life. Looking around, many of you relate to, you know, the time of life that I'm in saying, think back when you were in your 20s. I mean, what wasn't in front of you that you couldn't do, or that you couldn't dream of, or that you said you were going to do. And whether you really had in place what you wanted to be, you still were at a great time in your life when you had every great decision in front of you. And all you had to do is kind of get a little experience and knowledge and education, and then sort it out and say, okay, I'm going that way. So the question I always like to ask is, think through this, and I'll come back to it. There's no quiz. There's no calling out for what you're thinking or the answer is, but plant in your mind what success is to you. Some of you are probably closer to what your goals to define that as success are. Others are not. It doesn't matter. But it's really important I think, for someone to understand what is success, because goals lead to success. But what's often said about goals is make sure it's set strong enough so when you get there, you're happy you got there. So you don't work really hard. You get to a goal and you go, oh, well, that wasn't that difficult, or I'm not ecstatic about being here, and I probably should have set a higher goal. But success, I think, is on the same line with happiness. If you have your definition of success correct. I want to get you to I'll circle back to that as well, but I want to use some examples of, I think, how you can best get to your level of success and happiness. And that is, to me, it's most important that you have balance in 3 areas of your life. The first one is personal, the next is professional, the next is community. And I think you're going to have all 3 of those at different levels at different times in your life to focus on, but keep them all in play. Sometimes you're going to be working more on your personal, sometimes more professional, sometimes more on your community. And they're all important, in my opinion, for you to shape whatever goals you have to get to your success level, however you've defined that. Let me explain each one. Personal is, you. But, the most influential, wonderful person I've ever had in my life was my mother. And growing up in Stevens Point, as a normal kid, you didn't know what important and depth of lessons you were going to learn as a kid. I mean, all you want to do is get outside and play. But my mom would go, she'd say, I'm going to so-and-so, I baked a loaf of bread, I'm going to take it to a friend because she's sick. Then she'd say, I'm going to give so-and-so a ride to the clinic because the car isn't working for them. She did all these little things, and I'm going, yeah, okay, fine. I'll be in the backyard, or I'm going to get some friends, we're going to play some baseball, whatever. We're going to do something. And it doesn't sink in, really. So the great lessons in my life of everything good in me, the DNA chip that was put in because of my mother, has stuck with me. So I kind of frame that up because what I'm going to say, every time I say this, I know she wouldn't particularly like it. She was always saying, don't be selfish, give to others first, be aware of others first, and whatever. And I subscribe to that. But I think starting with being selfish as you possibly can be about yourself is the first most important step. And that's what I mean by personal. You have got to be happy with you. You have got to have your values in place as you see it. You have to shape yourself as to who you want to be. You've got to be satisfied with you first. The expression of looking in the mirror and seeing who's there, that's very important. And that's where you start. If you're not selfish first about yourself and setting yourself up with who you are, I submit that you can't be out there to help others to your full capacity because you won't have yourself in place. Once you do that, get out there and find ways that you can develop yourself and your character and your values better with others around you, but you've got to be right for yourself first. And Stephen Covey wrote, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People and many other books. One of the chapters in there also kind of stuck with me once I went through it, and I took it back to when my mother passed away in 1992. It clicked of an experience at her funeral that stuck with me. And that was the chapter about begin with the end in mind. And basically Covey was saying, if you really want to evaluate you as a whole and with the other 6 habits, you've really got to look begin at the end. When you're gone, your end, you're done, no more discussions, nothing else, you've checked out. And the thing to do is to look back and say, all right, what did I do? Who was I? What did I accomplish? Who did I impact? And I took that to heart, particularly with a comment from a great man, a wonderful man who was at the funeral, the wake with my mother. And the story is, people are passing by and saying, Etta, your mom was wonderful. She was great. She was so friendly. She was so positive. It was always great to see her. And I'm hearing this over and over and over again, of course, going, yes, stop. Yes, she was. This was great. And then, and she was a clerk for 28 years in the camera department at Osco Drug on Main Street in Stevens Point. And again, nothing sunk in big about that, except I'd go in and visit her, and everybody liked her there, and the customers liked her, and everybody would say great things about my mom. But then I'd go on and go do something else. But this gentleman said she worked in the camera department, which many of you will remember, back in the old days, a camera department of a drugstore where you got all your healthy drugs and ailments and everything else, it's a healthy place. Back in that day, you also had the camera department, which also managed the cigarettes, snuff, pipe, cigars. I mean, that's where you went for your smoke center in your drugstore. Made a lot of sense, didn't it, back then? It was good. And plus, as people are stocking shelves, they're stocking shelves. I mean, it was, and then you'd see the news that night, and people are going, the news tonight is. So my mom worked in the camera department and encountered many, many people. But this one gentleman said, I got to tell you, you got to know this. For the last 8 years that she worked there, I would go in twice a week and buy 2 cigars. And I would spend, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever, talking with your mother. And he said, I would walk out of there feeling so good because of the conversation that we had. She was always found a way to pick me up. And then I'd leave with my cigars. And I said, sir, it means a lot to me. It's a personal story, and I thank you so much for telling me. Then he said, but the key part of the story is I stopped smoking during those last 5 years. I had to come in and encounter your mom twice a week just for the encounter and the positivity that she gave to me. And I went out and I tried to spread that as well. The next person I encountered, the next one, I'd always think of your mother, Etta. And I said, I don't know what to say except a big thank you. And that lesson to me, beginning with the end in mind, says, that's what you and I hope, are thinking about, that people will talk about us when we're done. Obviously, we can't correct something, we can't adjust a statement, whatever. We're dead. I mean, we're gone. But that's where the end in mind concept is to remind us that make sure we're doing something that has an impact on someone else whenever we can. And there was before our first child was born, someone else gave me the advice too that kind of related to it, and it said, they said, well, you're going to have you're the first baby, congratulations, it's great. And I said, well, any tips on raising kids? And they said, no, except that just remember they're always watching you. And I go, yeah, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah, they said, no. They're always watching you. When you're walking through the kitchen, you get to be 1 year old, 3 years old, 5 years old, 10 years old, they watch your every move. And I said, well, that's kind of creepy. And they said, well, yeah, you can look at it creepy, but that's parenting. So whatever conversations you're having, whatever body language you've got, whatever's going on, they're always watching you. And that's where this, to me, the beginning with the end in mind also says, don't look around and see if anybody's watching you. If you're doing the right thing according to your own values, you hope a lot of people are watching you. But you don't want the recognition for it, but you want someone to say, that person influenced my life. They made my day better. They made my life better. So that's the personal side that I would describe as important as part of that three areas. Professional, it's your gig, it's your job, it's what you're going to do to earn a living. And this would also bother my mom because she always said, give to others, share, do a good job, get to a certain point, be successful as you can, but don't overshow anything. And I agreed with her, except now I don't. Personally, I want to amass as much wealth as I possibly can. I want to be financially successful. I want to reach the pinnacle of financial success, the highest degree that I possibly can. Well, can you imagine that would trouble her to say, what? That's greed. That's overdoing it. That's not right. And I'm not talking about greed or anything along those lines. Let's move it over here. I'm talking about if you've got talent and drive and skill sets and you want to succeed at something to reach higher financial goals, do it. And I think there's a segment of the population, if you will, that still frowns upon that. You're making a little too much money. You're kind of influencing too many things. You've got too much net wealth. You've got one too many cars. You've got whatever. Well, frankly, that shouldn't matter, provided that you do it the right way. Integrity, honesty, truth in every dealing you've got, respecting people you're working with, respecting people around you. Do it the right way. And then don't feel bad at all if you happen to be, hitting minor trifectas along the way because of your hard work. And it really bugs me that some people will say, well, no, look at the net worth on so-and-so. So what? Look at yourself and do the best and be the best that you possibly can. But do it the right way. And I've got to thank Elizabeth and the team at the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point for allowing me to, last year and this year, talk to classes that are geared around ethics and in business. And it means a lot to me to be able to try to influence young minds that want to be successful in going into business, because it gives me an opportunity to say just that. Look, go for your dreams, go for what you were talented enough to go after and be successful. Don't feel bad about it, provided you're doing it the right way. That's professional. Go for it. Community, it's my favorite. Everybody's got something to offer to someone else. Right now, until we do the auction, think about your wallets not even being with you. Your checkbook's not with you. The credit cards aren't with you. This is not about money, about giving. Don't hold me to that until we're done. Then I want those wallets. I want everything to come out so that we can benefit, stock the shelves. But community is about what you have to offer to those around you. And community, to me, says you have a role. Everybody's got a role in assisting someone else's life. And you choose it. But I'm more concerned about people not choosing to kind of give as they go, as opposed to the expression of giving back. Giving back just doesn't sit right with me. Do it, and when you reach that big pinnacle of success, and as many people that reach that doing it the wrong way, they go, oh gosh, I'm feeling kind of empty. I'm a billionaire, but I'm not happy. I don't know what's missing. Well, what's missing is you never gave as you went. Now you're going to say, okay, now I'll give back. So if that took you 10, 20, 30 years to get to where you're at, and you did nothing in your community, think of the families that you did not impact. Think of the individuals that struggled longer than they needed to because you didn't give a little bit along the way, and now you're saying, now I'm fine. And by the way, because I'm so wealthy, I'm going to write this check and I'm going to be a hero. I don't like that. Personally, I don't like that. So I'm saying, look for ways to give as you go. Look for ways to contribute your skill set, your talents. Of course, food banks and pantries and everyone else in the hunger world, cash is still king. You can do a lot of things with that. donations of the right food. Believe me, they've got plenty of potato chips. They don't need any more. But the right food, healthy foods, is always welcomed. But really, in the meantime, if you're an electrician, if you're really good on computers, if you're a plumber, if you like to mop floors, you're good at whatever, those talents are needed. And if that's what moves you to help out and feel like you're contributing, do it. Great checks are always welcome, but in the meantime, give what you've got when you can. You have a role. You're on this team of community. Being on the team and playing a role, the example that always comes to mind for me is with my son when he was about 6 or 7. And I played basketball at Pacelli. Believe me, I was legendary. People still talk about me at Pacelli High School. Me on that court, well, wait, I was only on the court probably 2 minutes a game. But when I was on that court, when we were behind 25 points and I got to play that last 2 minutes, I was legendary. Still crushed today that no NBA team picked me up. They're probably still not going to. But I was on the team, and I pressed, as some of you know, if you're from Stevens Point, Tom Frymark played in front of me for my entire high school career. He was really good. He deserved to be there, but I was sitting there. I'm ready, Coach Miller. I'm ready to go in. I can play a role. But my role then was to try to challenge the starting guards as much as I could. Yeah, I know that comes as a surprise that I was a guard. I was to challenge the centers, the basketball team, to challenge them to prepare for the game. And so that turned out to be my role. At the time, wasn't happy, but now I see it clearly. When you're not very good, you shouldn't play. But my son was getting ready to play basketball in the driveway, and his friend came over, and I'm sitting in the living room. It's a nice summer day, and I'm reading the paper or something, and Pete turns to his friend and he says, "Hey, Kyle, how tall is your dad?" And Kyle goes, "Oh, he's pretty tall." And Pete says, "Can he dunk a basketball?" And Kyle goes, oh yeah, he just did it yesterday. You should see it. It's really cool." And he goes, "I'll bet you can dunk a basketball someday too, Kyle," because he's tall. And he goes, "Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, but my dad's showing me, how to dunk the basketball best." Little pause, and Kyle goes, "So Pete, how tall is your dad?" And he says, "Oh, I don't know how tall he is really." And he says, "Do you think he can dunk a basketball?" And Pete goes, "Oh, no, my dad's not tall at all, and he can't dunk a basketball." But the really sad thing is, Kyle, is that he's already 40 and he's not going to get any taller. So, crushing blow, flash back to my illustrious career of the basketball team at Pacelli, and everything flashes back in a moment. And, first impulse is to go, "Oh, yeah, I'm going out there and I'm going to take an attempt at it." Again, I'm getting shorter now, but I was never really taller than this. And I decided against it because I didn't want a twisted ankle. I didn't want a broken spine. I didn't want to bang my head against the pole as I missed the basket completely. Better judgment came to me. But what I learned from it, and it started to sink in, is that, you do have a role. I did have a role on a basketball team. I'm not going to be the guy to dunk, but I will be the guy to play good defense, make the pass, set up some plays. I need to play that role so that the other 4 players on the court at the time are better. I need to bring out the best in them, but I've got a role to do it. In community, it's the same thing. Tom has, and Joanne have the statistics to back this up, but the statistic that still haunts me today is when we started Taste the NFL in 1992, 22 million Americans were food insecure. Now, 22 years later, contributing $14 million, all the work that was done, etc. Yay, we've taken a bite out of the problem because now it's 50 million people every night in America go to bed food insecure. But if you stop there and say that's insurmountable, can't do that. Why are we even trying? We can't do that because we have a role. We've got to find our role in community. We've got to find a way that we can impact someone else's life. We've got to be the ones to bring something forward and make those around us a little bit better. And if you don't have a cause, I mean, again, I'm talking to those people that aren't here. I try to convince them and say, look, don't wait till a cause comes to you. Mine happens to be hunger. And I was fortunate to be sadly introduced to a situation that clicked for me that said, I got to do this. And I happen to be in the right business for it. I'm in the food service business. So I know where food comes from. I know what happens to it. I know what we should do with it. I know how we can get the best results out of it. But I also say to people, I say, don't wait for tragedy to define your passion for a community or a community cause. Sadly, don't have, many people get involved with mad after someone they love is killed by a drunk driver. They get involved with breast cancer because they lose a close friend or relative or family member. And then they start to get involved. I'm not saying that's bad. And that's through tragedy, that's fabulous that that happens. But in the meantime, if you don't have a cause, and this is particularly what I try to put to students, is to say, just keep your eyes and ears open around you. As you're looking through something and you see something going on and it clicks your attention, whether it's adopt a pet, whether it's dollars for valet attendance. I mean, whatever. Whatever works out. Keep an eye out, and if you start getting curious about it, learn a little bit more about it, and learn a little bit more about it, and see if the passion bites you, or if someone else brings it to you. The start of my actual true depth of involvement in the hunger issue was back in 1986. I had done some things in local community, done some events in general, but I'm a former musician. Terry and Jeff, guitar player and drummer in our band, won't completely attest that I'm a good musician, but I was a musician. By the way, we have a reunion gig in Rothschild on April 26th. Make sure you plan to be there. But it's important to understand you don't know where it's coming from that something's going to hit you. And I was co-chair of the Uptown Art Fair in Minneapolis, and it was 325,000 people for 3 days in a little area, hip area of Uptown. And it was to be a fundraiser for the business community to have enough funds for snow removal, etc., and beautifying the area. And we were successful for 2 years. The co-chair and I moved it from netting $40,000 to $120,000. And so then I got done with my second term of doing that, and I said, this takes place in August, and I said, I'd love to do a jazz fest. Wouldn't that be cool to close out this street like we did and do a jazz fest? And everybody loves music. So and what I quickly found out, which I already knew, but I didn't know the depth of it, the neighbors in this area just hated the art fair. If I lived there, I'd hate it. You got 325,000 people over 3 days coming by, parking on your lawn, parking in front, disrupting traffic, watering the plants, if you get my drift, getting to it from the art fair. Of course you're going to hate this. But all the people came from 3-state area to go to this thing, and it was good, and it was a great art fair. But so someone said, well, you got to get permission to go, to do this before you do another, I'm not going to do 300,000 people, but I'm thinking we'll do 15 to 20,000. That'd be great. So I went knocking on doors. I go, yeah, I can sell. I can convince. I'll just turn on my charm and convince these neighbors that wouldn't it be great to start the summer off with a music fest? Hey, great. We'll get the right people there. They won't mess with your bushes. This will be great. So I start knocking on doors and slam and slam and slam. And one guy says, are you out of your mind? Slam, slam. So I'm a little dejected, and I go back after a couple days of rejection, and someone says, you should get a charity. Find a charity and make this a charity event. And I go, in my little capitalistic, selfish, want to run a music fest one day mind, I go, yeah, I'll get a charity. There's got to be a charity around here somewhere. Thinking, I don't care what it is, I'll just get a charity on this. Then these people will love it. So it just so happened 2 blocks from my restaurant in the Uptown area was a place called Joyce Emergency Food Shelf. And I went in, and the food shelf, the entire food shelf was maybe this big. And I met the woman who was the director. She's a solo act. She was just making this little place run. There was a church across the street that I was associated with, but she just made it run. And I said, "Hi, I own the restaurant up the street. I ran the art fair." Her eyes rolled back because it disrupted her stuff too. And I said, I want to put on a music event next summer, and would you like to be the recipient of the funds? She goes, "Oh, that would help a lot." And I go, "Yeah, this is great." Ready to, I said, "Let's go through some details." And then this woman walked in, late 20s or so, 2 little kids, 4 and 6-ish or so. And the woman excuses herself. She walks over. They have this little conversation. I'm trying to listen to what they're saying. She puts a few things, and these shelves are, the expression half full, half empty. It was definitely half empty. I mean, there was not much there. So she starts putting some stuff into 2 bags, hands this woman the bag. They have a big hug with each other. The director goes down and hugs these 2 kids and kind of talks them a little bit, and they leave. She comes back and she sits down and she says, "Okay, so what are the details on this?" And I said, "What just happened there?" She said, "Well, she's one of the people that come in from the neighborhood. She's a single mom. The father passed away a few years ago. She's trying to make it work. She's got a job, but sometimes now at the end of the month she needs some assistance in food for her family." And I said, I was brilliant when I was younger. And I go, "That doesn't sound right." And she goes, "Well, it's really not right, that someone would struggle like that." And I said, what can we do about it?" And she said, "Well, your funds will help a lot." And all of a sudden, Mr. Greed and Mr. Music and Mr. Whatever kind of goes out the window, and I go, "We got to do this." And so, fast forward, we ended, and then I said, "What happens if you don't have anything?" And she said she'd have to go without, or she's got to find some means of getting to another place that has it. And again, because I'm so smart back then, I'm thinking to myself, well, yeah, sure. Whew, wow, that was close. She'll just hop in her car and go somewhere and go to another food shelf somewhere, or she can get it somewhere else. Back then, no cell phones. I know there's nobody young enough in here to know that, but when I say that at students, sometimes they go, "There was a time there was no cell phones?" Yeah, really. And we actually got up to change the channel, too. We grew up in some tough times. But I said, there was no other way. She couldn't find out from another food bank. She didn't have a phone working in her house. She couldn't find out if somewhere else had it. If she just took a chance and rode the bus to go there with her 2 kids, she'd come back with 2 bags, 2 kids, and if they didn't have it over there, she just wasted her bus fare. I mean, you know that. Just add it up. If she didn't have it at this food shelf, she was kind of stuck for a while. So the result was we ended up running this Jazz Fest. I ran it for about 6 years. We raised pretty nifty money. I credit that experience for jump-starting me to realize you got to do something, and particularly in your neighborhood. Now I have a restaurant 3 blocks away from there. The woman is still there. Our restaurant does a couple of things during the course of the year. On our 20th anniversary, I walked over to the food bank, and I hadn't seen her in years, and we presented her for a pretty fat check from the 20th anniversary of Taste the NFL, because I said, "You made this happen. This is the result of 25, 30 years ago that we had that conversation." And we both cried, we both hugged. It was great. But you don't know when you're going to find that moment that it's going to click. And you're going to go, "I get it." But in the meantime, it's like anything else. You got to get in shape. You got to look for things. You got to find ways. You got to plug in here and there. You spend 2 hours at a food shelf. Just find a way to begin to plug in to community. So, the balance of personal, professional, and community. And I would say to you, to anybody, that is the formula for success and for happiness. Because as you start doing things, it all starts to add up. And you find balance in your life because it's in the 3 areas that are most important to you, in my opinion. Let's go back to the success piece. And I'll start wrapping up, because I'm going to show you this film. I'm ready in about 3 minutes for you to show the first film. Again, keep in mind with success. I think if those three pieces are in balance, whatever you choose as your result of success, you can get there. A little smoother path. You never get to success with an easy path, but that keeps you grounded and happy because you're feeling good about yourself, you're feeling good about what you're pursuing, and you're feeling good about the fact that you're influencing someone else. Taste of the NFL. I've had about 10 restaurants. I have a day job. I've had restaurants over the last 35 years. I'm now down to one by my choosing. Fortunately, we develop the restaurants, we sell them, and then we move on and do some others. But my business now is the Franklin Street Bakery. It's a wholesale bakery. We've grown it really wonderfully. We set it up in my business partner is the best business partner one could ever dream of having. We're on the same page. We don't always agree, but we always conclude something on the same page. And we decided to build this. We went through two growths of the bakery. We built this bakery now. It's 20,000 square feet 10 years ago in a tough part of South Minneapolis. And what's happened is it's helped gentrify that whole area because there was some confidence shown by us to invest this chunk of money into having the bakery there. It's a wholesale bakery, so it's basically manufacturing, but we built it with windows all around as well, which meant in a 24/7 operation in an area where crime used to be high, criminals don't like light and they don't like activity. So we were able to settle down the area. The police told us in the first year crime went down 25% in that area. And now there's a high-end floral shop, there's an extra community bank, a credit union, etc. We didn't do it. We just happened to latch on at the right time. And so, so I have a day job. This is all volunteer. What you're going to see is the result of unbelievable giving and selflessness and volunteerism of truly famous people, famous chefs, famous players, athletes in other areas, celebrities. Nobody is paid to participate in Taste the NFL. To put it in perspective, the very first year in 1992, the ticket was $75. We netted $90,000. We give the money to the food banks in each of the 31 NFL cities. Fast forward, New York, our 23rd year this year, the single ticket is $700. The tables are $9,000 per table, and we have 10 diamond package tables that have a whole bunch of amenities for $20,000, so that's $2,000 per person. The capacity is the largest capacity we'll ever have, 3,200 people, and we've already sold 1,800 tickets. We've sold, out of 105 tables, we've sold 65 tables, and we've sold 6 of the $20,000 diamond packages. It's the premier event at Super Bowl. It is the hot ticket. And you got the Maxim party and the Playboy party, and you got the Chrysler party, you got all this party. And the sad thing about Super Bowl is that most of the parties are charitable events. Poppycock. Most of them are not. So they do this, they bring in the limos, they pay the celebrities, they pay all these guys to go in, and they go, oh, that's right, we're doing a charity for the Little Sisters of the Poor. We should probably carve off $1,000 or $10,000 or whatever. We've carved off $14 million just on that one night event for the first 22 years. We average between $400,000 to $600,000 net each year. Our record year is the first one you're going to see in North Texas. The first time ever we raised and distributed $1 million. And New York, New Jersey this year, because of the site that we're at, I think, and everything going on, as I keep saying, it's New York. I mean, food capital, sports capital, media capital, and our mission statement is to raise awareness and dollars for hunger. Awareness is always first. We do about, someone that knows this stuff in marketing, we average about 75 to 80 million impressions on the national event each year. I think we're heading to about 110 to 120 million impressions on Taste of the NFL, which means those translate into expressions about hunger in America. We have a lot of good, famous people who would fill this room if their name was here helping us this year because it's New York. Chefs and players and everybody's pitching in. Plus, we're taking over Brooklyn. Hey, we're taking over Brooklyn. There's a cruise terminal on Pier 12. It's 160,000 square feet. We'll have a capacity of 3,200 people. We are also donated a 1,200-person yacht that has all glass around it, so that whether you're on the yacht, which we're turning into a nightclub for the night, if you're on the yacht or you're in the cruise terminal along the one side, you see South Manhattan all lit up, all decked out, all dressed up and ready for Super Bowl. It's going to be one of the most spectacular light. All the buildings are lit, etc. We saw the drawings for it. Then you look over here, and it's the Statue of Liberty straight across, and then right in front of you is Governor's Island. So it's going to be really cool. And we have many restaurants in New York helping to contribute through our Kick Hunger Challenge during the course of the season. It's going to be pretty cool. Okay, this is North Texas, our 20th anniversary, the first time we ever raised $1 million, and it was pretty exciting. If I give you enough lead, there you go. Mentioned earlier the math on dollars. Generally, average, it's $1 can create 8 meals. So we did pretty good in North Texas, and a lot more families were fed. A couple things about that film before we go to the next one. One, my bandmates know that I'm better at playing bass than dancing. The person that put that video together, I said, does that really need to be on there? I said, yeah, it needs to be on there. It's pretty good. So I avoid dancing at all costs here. The other one is that there's 2 chefs on stage. We did a live auction. Sometimes the facility doesn't allow us to do a live auction because everybody's moving around. It's food stations from each city with a chef, the wine, and a player at each place. So you go to Dallas table, you go to the Green Bay table, you go to the Minnesota table, etc. And once you're in, you're in. But we were able to do a live auction that year, and what they got up to $20,000 was. Those 2 chefs and 2 other chefs from 4 different cities said, look, we'll go to someone's house and cook dinner for 30 people wherever it is in the United States. So the winner was of course it was in Texas. It was an owner of an oil company that bid $20,000, and those guys covered their own airfare, they covered their own food, and it was amazing. But there's a little oil still left in Texas. The other cool thing about looking for a site, I struggle every year trying to get a site. And the NFL is this big, wonderful, if this is being recorded, delete this part, is this big, wonderful 700-pound gorilla that allows us to use the name and the logo, Taste the NFL, with the shield in there. Now, Budweiser paid $40 billion for that. We pay $1 in a contract or whatever. They don't help us at all. We don't get game tickets, Super Bowl tickets. We don't get any of that stuff, and I like it that way because I don't want them around because they're a big corporation that is constantly working on PR rather than other stuff. So they're playing more defense than offense in general. So we just do our thing and we give them all the credit. But so we have to look for sites in North Texas. I said. Roger Staubach was very involved for 3 years leading into Texas, and he and the host committee for the Super Bowl would come to the events, in Phoenix and some other. So in Phoenix, he comes with his group. We had right before the band started. We generally have like bare naked ladies or Brooks and Dunn or Martina McBride. In Arizona, by the way, we had Cheap Trick. It was really great catching up with those guys because we used to play in Madison when they were in town, when they were just another band. They did a little better than us, but what the heck? They play louder and they run around more, so it doesn't count. But I said, because we're the gem of Super Bowl, I've got to get the site approved with the NFL. I'll say I want to do this site, and they'll go, no, we're going to store boxes there. You can't do that. Go back and try it again. But the mayors of 5 different North Texas area cities came to me early and said, we'd like you to hold the event in our city, and we'll help you raise the money. And I said, I'll select a city that you, Mr. Mayor, kind of assures us, guarantees us we're going to hit the $1 million mark by the amenities you're going to provide for us. So, if it's a city facility, pay the workers, but don't charge me for tables and chairs you've already got. Don't upmark anything. So it's funny though, in Arizona, right before we were up and we gave a check locally to the food bank there for $200,000, and we raised about a little over $600 that night. But it was the first time ever we presented the check to the local food bank, St. Mary's Food Bank in Phoenix, the very first food bank in the country. And I came off the stage, and Roger Staubach came over with his other mayors and whatever, and he said, that's a sizable check for a local, isn't it? I said, well, we generally give about 30% to the local food bank where the Super Bowl takes place, and then we split up the other 70% 31 ways. And he said, boy, is this a high, 600,000 that you raised? And I said, no. He said, what's the most you've ever raised? And it was like picking candy from a kid or in a candy. It was so easy. I couldn't have cue carded it better. He's asking the right questions leading up to, I was able to give him the knockout blow because he said, what was the most you ever raised? And I said, well, we raised $820,000 about 4 years ago. He said, God, that's great. I think we can do that in North Texas at the Super Bowl. I said, but no, the goal is $1 million. And he said, so the big question, he goes, so where did you raise the 820? And I said, we're just down the road in Houston, in 2005. And the whole group that he was with kind of went, oh. And I said, you can do better than that in North Texas, can't you? And they go, yeah. And the big buckles went up, and might as well put the 10-gallon hats on and go, yeah, we're bigger in Texas here, So it was a great setup, and they came through and they did it, which is great. This is New Orleans. We did last year. We were able to get more messaging out, and you'll see it's a little bit different, but it still is the same impact.
Hunger is a terrible thing that is all over the world.
I think we should each do our part to help fight hunger.
I think this is the greatest cause ever.
We want to end hunger if we can.
Everything comes into today, right now, right here. We're standing in the New Orleans Convention Center, kicking off Taste of the NFL. I'm so excited.
And this is where it all happens. Dozens of the NFL's best, past and present, 32 of the world's greatest chefs, and hundreds of people come to eat, to drink, to spend. The mission is clear: tackle hunger.
To be here and to be a part of this, it's just an amazing feeling knowing that what's going on here tonight is helping to put food on the tables of families all across the United States.
I feel so grateful to be a part of this team. It's the most amazing team, and we will tackle, and we will fight, and we will kick hunger in the tush.
This is a great event. It's been going on this is the 22nd year. They've earned over $13 million in the first 21 years to help feed hungry people. It's just an awesome event.
When you walk into the doors at the Taste, your mission is clear: take a bite out of hunger.
Eating in America, not eating well, just eating, should not be a class issue. I think food insecurity is the greatest issue of our time.
A party with a purpose, it's absolutely fabulous. The charity auction is just amazing. The chefs are fabulous. The wine pairings are off the hook, fabulous.
Yeah, there's great food, there's great wine, there's great socializing, but you come to a Taste It is a world-class silent auction with everything from the Beatles to the Bangles, jerseys, anything.
We've got 2 more tickets to Super Bowl 47 to auction off tonight.
It's just a once-in-a-lifetime experience.
We've been blessed with a lot of great things in my personal life and also at work, and we feel that it's very strong that we give back to the community, people who need it.
And as the night ends on this taste, the mission still continues, and you can help.
So, a couple things on that one. Nothing is scripted. Any player, any chef, anybody that's interviewed, Andrew Zimmern, anybody else, they're there because they want to be there. They don't get a dime for being there. They don't get appearance fees. All we do is cover their airfare and their lodging. That's it. Last year in New Orleans, each chef was required to prepare 1,200 portions of their dish. We involve culinary students for the last 22 years. They learn and work next to their heroes. Eventually they get their own restaurants, and I get calls all the time saying I'm now helping the food bank in Eugene, Oregon. I'm helping the food bank in Biloxi, Mississippi, non-NFL cities. But they're all committed to hunger, and when a chef isn't able to make it, we replace him with another notable chef. Same thing with player. We have this year there'll be 18 Hall of Fame players out of our 36 player roster. Many current players as well. It's just in that book, Bring Out the Best. That book is, if there's some here, it's yours to take. If you don't have it, just get a hold of Tom or John, and happy to send it to you. Or if you want to buy it, go online, and 100% of what is raised goes into the pot for the distribution this year, because it's bought and paid for through the generosity of Scott writing the book, 150 interviews. It's a printer in Connecticut that one of my board members knew that he printed it for dirt. I mean, I can't believe he did it. And 30,000 copies. And 30,000 copies. And then one of our board members bought 1,000 copies. He's got this huge food service company, and he bought it, 1,000 of them, to give to all his key managers across the country. So if you want it, it's meant to be read. It's about the awareness. There's some great little vignettes in there about why people do all this. And that's why it's a hot ticket. And so go to tastynfl.com, you can do that. What I want to do is there's one more piece that I want to show, and that is Bobby Flay has been on our board. He was the founding chef for the very first year he represented the Giants. Tom Colicchio represented the Jets. If you know some of these names in the food industry, it was the who's who back in 1992. And all these chefs came about through the generosity of their giving, and many of them have been with us for all 22 years. But we also try to do more things local, and Kick Hunger Challenge is one of them. Out front there's a piece about the Packers. I'm assuming everyone in here is a Packer fan. If not, I should have asked you to leave earlier. I failed as a father and as a husband, trying to convince my wife. I was born in the Netherlands and adopted the Vikings as her team, and my 3 children, who shunned the opportunity all their lives. They're in their 20s now, to be a Packer fan. They've stuck with the Vikings. 2 of them are married. They married spouses from Indianapolis, so their second favorite team is the Colts. I will always live with the shame that I couldn't convince them to be Packer fans. But I feel better every time we're talking about Super Bowl rings. How many do the Vikings really have? Is there one tucked away in a drawer? Oh, that's right. No, they don't. We have a cabin in Cumberland, and I love. We're all friends now. I love pissing off my family because it's not a very big place, but it's called officially, when they were selling it or whatever, it's called the Fish Room. So you step in from being on the lake, and you go in there, and there's a sink and whatever, and then you go into the main part of the place. And once we got settled in and whatever, and one weekend I was up there by myself, and I took all my Packer stuff, and I went to some place where they embroider those little bronze or black or gold plaques or whatever. We can put engraved names on it. And so I put one right over the door that said Lombardi Room. And then inside I put the Lombardi wall, and I had some Lombardi stuff. So when you walk into this fish room, it's all Packer stuff. It's just packed. And often enough, certainly during the football season, a couple of them won't even go through that room. They'll go the other way to go out down to the lake and go, no, come on. And I said, look, I'm a reasonable man, father, husband. If more win, and if I'm still around, I'll write it down if I'm gone. If the Vikings win a Super Bowl, you can have this section right here, okay? And they accuse me of not being fair. Well, I think I'm fair. So this piece is Bobby Flay is still on our board, and we did this at the James Beard House in New York. James Beard House and James Beard Association is kind of the Academy Awards to movies as James Beard is to the culinary world and chefs. But every year we've done a dinner there, and this particular clip is with NBC Sports. So you'll see Bob Costas, you'll see Al Michaels, and then the chefs in the kitchen, and then Bobby's got a quick message about Kick Hunger Challenge.
The House of James Beard is the holy grail, if you will, in the world of chefdom. And the taste, although it's fun, great food, fantastic chefs, wonderful, dedicated people, the cause is never, ever not on our mind. We want to end hunger in America.
Hey everybody, I'm Bobby Flay. Join me in the Taste of the NFL team as we try to kick hunger in America. Support your own NFL team and then go to kickhungerchallenge.com. Come and get it.
I love that expression. Come get it. Bobby's been very dedicated to the issue of hunger. Even more so, and I mentioned to Tom and John and everybody else, if you get a chance to go on YouTube, that's what all the kids go on, right? On that internet thing, there's a video, or there's a movie that Tom Colicchio, the chef, celebrity chef, did. He produced it, and his wife, Lori Silverbush, did the directing on it. It's called A Place at the Table. Really cool 80-minute piece. And some of you are of my age to remember this. Part of the reference back there is in the 1970s, CBS did a report on hunger in America. And it was sobering, impactful, tremendous. And what happened was there was such an uproar about the issue of hunger that literally it disappeared. Now, a few people were hungry, but not millions. And it just went right down. Remember that? It was called Hunger in America. And so Tom and Lori said, the time is overdue. We got to do something. So this movie they did and released a few months back is a documentary about that chronicles 3 situations of hunger. And it's not asking for money. It's meant to get your blood going and say, that's not right. Let's regain the political will and control, and let's do something about it, because that's what happened in 1970. And we got to start, going back from 50 million to 48 million to 45. We got to start going the other way. But if you get a chance, watch that film, A Place at the Table. I'm going to close with a couple of quick things here. And then reach for your wallets, because I'm going to try to raise some money for stock the shelves here. The other really influential person in my life was my brother, Warren. He was 7 years older than me. He went to Pacelli High School. He actually was a really good basketball player, made all conference, all that kind of stuff. So you can imagine the disappointment in the coaching staff when I walk in 7 years later and go, yeah, I'm Warren's brother. And they're going, this guy's going to be a stud. And then they saw me practice. But my brother, my mom and dad divorced when I was 12, and it didn't go well. But my mom, saved the day with everything. But my brother then stepped in, and he went to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point. junior and senior year was the president of the Student Senate. He was elected. He was a political science major. He got his degree there, taught University of Wisconsin La Crosse, got his master's, went down and taught at Wittenberg University, got his PhD, and went down to University of Illinois, and then went to Wittenberg University in Ohio, and was an outstanding professor there. Smartest guy. He got all the brains. I got no sports abilities. No, I got something. I'm sure. But he instilled in me that you've got to be the best. He pushed me on everything, and I hated him for it. I really didn't like him at the time when I was going through high school, but I didn't have a dad, and he kind of played in that role. And the thing was that he would push me academically, and he would say, "Oh, let me see what your homework is." And okay, well, I got this history paper I got to write, and this is the outline, and I think I got it. He goes, "Yeah, it looks like you do. It sounds like you do." Okay, what you got to do is take this section and write another paper on it that further goes into depth on this particular part. And I go, "Warren, that's not the assignment." You go, "Yeah, but you'll learn something more from it. Do that." And I go, "No." And he'd go, "Okay, where'd you think you were going tonight or this weekend or whatever?" And I go, "Well, that's not fair." And he'd go, "Well, it's just a paper. Just do some reading." So he kept doing that to me. And ultimately, it instilled in me that you got to go, you got to work a little harder if you want to get somewhere. And so he was incredibly influential to me, and incredibly unfair and tragic. When he was 32 years old, he went to Washington, D.C. on a fellowship to do some political science stuff out there. I got a call at 6 o'clock at night in Minneapolis. I was starting to get in the restaurant career at the Chanhassen Dinner Theaters, and I got a call at 6 o'clock at night from my sister, said Warren's in the hospital. He's had a cerebral hemorrhage, and by midnight he was dead at 32. So shortly after that, I was going through stuff from when he was still around at the house and whatever, and I came across this thing and paper, and I remember writing it down, and he helped me. He told me, and it came back to me because it said, I got a call from a newspaper one time. It said, "What's the best advice you ever got?" I said, "That's a pretty big question, but I got the answer for you." And I said, "I got it from my brother." And it reads, "In order to achieve any degree of success and happiness, use your senses wisely. Listen first and intently to what someone says and to what they aren't saying. Look with your eyes open and see things that others don't see. Smell with the intent to recall the best feelings in your life, food, wine, and the air around you. Speak only when you have something that is important for someone else to hear, not simply because you wish to be heard. Touch everything around you, even literally, but feel the joy of touching someone else's life as well as the friendship and warmth of a handshake. Use all your senses to enjoy your life to the fullest and improve someone else's." If he wasn't pushing me and he didn't make me write that down many, many, many years ago, I wouldn't have gotten it. I wouldn't get most of what I got today, and I really thank him for that. Let me close with closing the loop on two things. One, I said, be an individual brings out the best in those around you. The lesson I learned from that over the years is huge, because there seems to be a second part of that. Be an individual brings out the best in those around you, and then those around you will bring out the best in you. You've experienced that at some point to some degree. Continue trying to experience that. Be the best to bring out the best around you, but then you'll get it back tenfold. And that, to me, helps lead you to success and to happiness, because it's an exchange. You're completing a circle. And the last thing is the definition of success. I would have loved to have, put it into good words, but some guy, Ralph Waldo Emerson, put it much better than me. And this is what he said about success: to laugh often and love much, to win the respect of intelligent persons and the affection of children, to earn the approbation of honest citizens and endure the betrayal of false friends, to appreciate beauty, to find the best in others, to give of oneself, to leave the world a bit better, whether by a healthy child, a garden patch, or a redeemed social condition. To have played and laughed with enthusiasm and sung with exultation. To know even one life has breathed easier because you have lived, this is to have succeeded. So, you're doing wonderful things. You're doing what you should be doing. And if this was a different audience, here's where I'd implore you to get involved and do something. But for God's sakes, don't stop doing what you're doing. Too many people are counting on it. Just you being yourself, you bringing out the best in yourself and those around you, you doing the right thing. You're being watched and you're influencing other people's lives every day that you do something special. So please keep doing it. And I want to thank John. Worked so hard to put this together tonight, and I appreciate being here, and I think it is a screaming success, not in body, but in the people that have been brought together. I want to give John a hand for thank you. But truly, thank you very much for inviting me here. More importantly, from families you probably will never see face to face, thank you very much for the support and the work that you do here locally in central Wisconsin, because the way I always think of it, if you weren't doing it, what would they do? So every little thing you do is a very important move and appreciated. So thank you very much.